Hi, Thriller Recaps here. Today, I am going to explain the movie, No Escape, explaining every scene as it happens. Watch till the end, and please like, share and subscribe if you enjoy this. Jack and his family, his wife, Annie, and their two daughters, Bees and Lucy, were on a very long flight from Texas to Southeast Asia. During the flight, one of their girls got acquainted with a man named Hammond. They appeared to be tired due to the long journey. When they arrived in Asia, Jack's company did not send a car as promised, so they were at the mercy of taxi drivers at the airport. However, Hammond came to their rescue and warned them not to patronize the men, as they were scammers. He then escorted them outside the airport, where they could find a safe ride to the hotel. Hammond mentioned that he was staying at the same hotel. Eventually, they got into a taxi driven by a man who introduced himself as Kenny Rogers. On their way to the hotel, they observed military personnel surrounding a building. When they arrived at the hotel, they discovered that Jack's company had prepared a welcome banner for him in the lobby. However, when they settled into their room, they realized that many things weren't working, including the television and phone. Jack went to complain at the reception and found out that this was a citywide issue due to an ongoing uprising. Jack then decided to go to the hotel bar for a drink, where he unexpectedly found Hammond singing. They discussed various matters and enjoyed drinks together before Hammond left for a strip club. Later that night, Jack noticed that Annie wasn't in bed and found her in the bathroom, crying. He reassured her that he didn't anticipate things turning out this way and that he had made the best decisions for their family. The following day, Jack went to the hotel lobby to check if his company, Cardiff, had left any messages for him, but there were none. He asked for a newspaper and was directed to where he could find one. After obtaining the only English newspaper available, which was from 3 days earlier, he left and realized that most shops were closed. He found himself caught between local protesters and the police trying to control them. The police shot some of the protesters, leading to a fight breaking out. Jack managed to escape the scene with some locals, with the police in pursuit. Upon returning to the hotel, Jack witnessed the locals gathering around an American and shooting him in the head. One of the locals spotted Jack and started chasing him, but he managed to escape. The hotel had been infiltrated, and foreigners were being targeted and killed. When he reached his hotel room, he informed Annie about the dire situation, only to realize that their daughter Lucy was missing. Bees informed him that Lucy had gone swimming, so Jack went to search for her. While he was away, Annie observed through their peephole and witnessed men with their faces covered killing someone in the room opposite theirs. Jack found Lucy and brought her back to the room. On their way, they encountered Hammond, who told Jack that they needed to reach the roof. Jack informed Annie, and they all headed for the rooftop. However, on the way, Bee's teddy bear fell to the floor, attracting the attention of a local who pursued them while shooting. They reached the rooftop where other foreigners and some locals were hiding, with some of them injured. Someone informed Jack that the Prime Minister had been killed, and they could hear the locals protesting, shouting, "Blood for water." Perplexed, they asked the bellhop what this meant, and he explained that Americans had taken their water, which the locals resented. There was a brief glimmer of hope when they saw a helicopter approaching the rooftop. However, their hopes were quickly dashed when someone from the helicopter began shooting at them, killing many. The helicopter soon crashed, and more locals stormed the rooftop. Jack had his wife jump to the next rooftop while he tossed Bees and Lucy to her. Jack eventually joined them on the adjacent rooftop, where the attackers continued to shoot at them. One of the assailants showed Jack his picture on the banner his company had printed for him. Jack managed to find a secure spot for his family, and tried to calm them down. They spotted a tank and attempted to leave, but the tank fired upon the building before they could escape. They took cover behind the debris and watched as the locals entered, killing anyone still alive. Bees expressed her need to use the bathroom, and Annie suggested she do it in her pants. Jack told Annie that no one knew they were there, and they had to make their way to the American embassy. They navigated through broken walls and passed over dead bodies on the floor, eventually peering out of a window and witnessing foreigners lined up on their knees. They watched in horror as a truck ran them over. A local intruder entered their hiding place and attempted to signal others, but after a struggle, Jack killed him. Jack found a bike, donned a hat, and had his family wear scarves to avoid drawing attention as they rode while following a map. They found themselves amidst local protests, but managed not to be noticed. Upon reaching the embassy, they discovered it had been attacked and taken over by locals. Jack went inside to investigate, finding the soldiers dead and the locals still present, vandalizing the premises. He quickly exited the embassy and sought refuge in a house. The occupant of the house happened to be the same man who had sold the newspaper to Jack earlier. Despite having initially signaled for them to leave, he welcomed them in. The man led them to a farm and instructed them to remain quiet while the locals searched for them. They captured the elderly man and scoured the farm looking for Jack's family. Jack attempted to grab a gun one of the men had dropped, but Annie distracted the men. To Jack's dismay, he discovered that the gun was not loaded. Jack was overpowered and forced to watch as the men nearly assaulted his wife. Suddenly, Hammond was brought in by one of the men. He claimed to have guns, but in a split second, he drew his weapon and killed the men. Another local killed the remaining assailants. When this local removed his mask, it revealed Kenny Rogers. Hammond then guided them to the rooftop of the strip club, where they had dinner. He pointed them in the direction of a river, explaining that the Vietnamese border was downstream. Jack learned that Hammond had a connection to the British CIA, and he thanked Hammond for saving them. Hammond cautioned Jack against thanking him, revealing that the turmoil had been initiated because the region had been promised loans they couldn't repay, resulting in foreign control. The locals fighting the rebellion were merely attempting to protect their children and avoid enslavement. While sleeping that night, they woke up to gunfire. They fled, but Kenny Rogers was killed, and Hammond was shot and severely injured. Hammond asked Jack to move on while he waited for an approaching truck to get close enough to shoot the driver, but tragically, the truck ran him over. Rain began to fall, and Jack confided in Annie that he didn't know what to do. She reassured him and reminded him that they had to cross the river and reach the border, even though Jack was overwhelmed and in tears. As they reached the river, Jack hid his family while he went in search of a boat. He encountered a local at the riverbank who took his watch and shoes in exchange for the boat. Rebels approached, and the local concealed Jack under a canoe, but he was discovered. After a struggle, they shot Jack in the arm, subdued him, and placed a gun to his head. Lucy, Jack's daughter, cried out and approached him. The man put the gun in Lucy's hand and pointed it at Jack, while he placed the gun to Lucy's head. Jack pleaded for her life, emphasizing that she was just a child. Annie struck the man from behind, killing him, while Jack picked up the gun and eliminated the remaining men. They retrieved the boat and rowed towards the Vietnamese border. They were almost there when the rebels illuminated them with searchlights and ordered them to halt. Despite their pleas, the Vietnamese soldiers also instructed them to stop since they hadn't received clearance to enter Vietnam. Nonetheless, they pressed on, entering Vietnam. The soldiers told the rebels to back off since the boat had entered Vietnam, and they were welcomed and cared for. Days later, as they lay in bed recovering, they shared the story of B's birth. Don't forget to subscribe as this encourages us to make more videos daily. It also helps with the YouTube algorithm. Please like, share and subscribe. We love you and we'll see you in the next video.